our, a gaggle, a group today? Yeah, a murder. Yeah, what is that? That's for pros. That's right. My name is Nicole. I am one of the members of the Board of Trustees. I have been doing this, which is helping each of the boards get to their goals for the last several months. I've done ProSAB, did SAB, and now I'm here at NDDA. And so it's been a pretty cool process. And one of the documents that's there in front of you were the strategic goals that I helped author to get the BOT straightened out on what we're going to focus on for the next 18 months. So what we're trying to do here tonight, and I apologize, I'm a bit of a facilitator that likes to kind of move around and just engage. So we're going to have this big bulky microphone by my side the whole day or the whole night. But our goal today is to go through some of the goals that you had already come up with. I have some things we need to do with those so that we can get them to the next stage. Okay. And if you looked at the agenda, there are two big things that we're going to do. One, we're going to clarify and specify some of these goals that you came up with. Some of them are not very specific. So we got to do that work first. And then second, what we're going to do is we're going to prioritize them across my nice little matrix here of impact versus effort. This will help figure out what we agree on in terms of impact and what we agree on in terms of effort. It's also a great way to weed out if there are any like really pet projects that people have that may not be having an impact on the community. Okay, so we went through this process with ProSAB and it was very illuminating. A couple of other things. So ground rules, I just do this for giggles because I'm a facilitator by nature. I want to make sure we're all operating from the same ground rules. Be open-minded, be curious, be respectful. Don't make me give you the evil eye. All right. And basically, let's let this process evolve and get what we need to out of it, which is again specificity and figuring out how we might put this on impact versus effort. My role is also to keep the conversation going. So there we go. Danielle just did it, right? Exactly. If at any point I feel like we are going into analysis paralysis, does this group do that? Just let me know ahead of time. A little bit? Okay, I appreciate that. If we go into that, I am going to very gently ask that we move on. I may have to ask twice, but we will move on, okay? We will reframe or I'll repeat back to you what I think I'm supposed to be hearing, and I've got to move things along, okay? So, let me see if there's anything else. No, let's get started. All right, first couple of things. These up here, oh, Mr. Tom is joining us tonight. These things are up here were the goals that I didn't have issue with. In other words, it's like, okay, I get what you're saying. My highlighted ones here on my sheet are the ones that I have issue with and that we're going to need to get a little bit more specific. Okay, and I'm going to ask you guys to do that. You guys have sticky notes in front of you. You should have a, what are those things called? Black pens, the Sharpie pens. Okay, Sharpie pens, sticky note etiquette. Please write on the sticky note so the sticky part is up, please, okay? And then write in the Sharpie pens so that folks can we can at least try to see what they say. All right, so we're gonna go through a couple of these and then I'm going to push.
Can I just super quick, and I know this, we didn't have the staffing to tear down, so you're in the horseshoe setting. You're going to have to use your mic, even though there's no one online, in order for the recording to capture. When you speak, you are going to have to go through the push button. Make sure you're talking your microphone, the whole thing.
There we go. Thank you.
And then just a reminder to turn your mic off when you're not talking, or we're going to get the feedback from mic to mic.
My mic too? Oh.
You're far enough away from me.
Okay. I got the special mic. All right. So the first one, so the ones that I didn't have issue with are implement paid parking, although I will have some questions about that in terms of jurisdiction. You'll see I've got a nice other little It's back here because I didn't have any other wall space. Advocacy. There may be some goals that you've listed that might not be under your jurisdiction, but what you would advocate for. We figured this out under ProSab. We're like, oh, it'd be so awesome to do this, but we don't really oversee that. But we would support it, right? Kind of a situation. And so that's where we'll stick some things for advocacy. But the ones that I didn't have issue with, or that were at least specific, more specific, implement paid parking, bring fireworks back to Ned, expand beautification budget, create employee parking, free bus pass for employees of Nederland businesses, change code to prevent empty buildings from just sitting there, develop new parking, assist town by hiring public safety officers, grant writing support for businesses, engaging more public support for NDDA projects, finish wayfinding, buy a cardboard compactor and sell the cardboard, create a summer concert series, hire an administrator to assist with programming, and develop an evaluation system for funding requests. All right, so my first one, assist businesses with recycling and trash. What does that mean? Mr. Mitchell?
Oh, there we go. I think we need to get the community together and get a system, or perhaps set up a sanitation district where we have a central location for recycling, trash collection, and cardboard compacting.
Okay, not at all what I thought it was going to be. Okay, so this is why we want to clarify and get as specific as possible. So that is in line with where the buy a cardboard compactor and then sell the cardboard. It's related?
Yes.
Okay. The specific goal, though, would be to create a central recycling site within the central business district. Would that be correct?
Corollary, I think it would be get the sanitation district established to create a funding mechanism to do that.
Okay, so the first step would be to create a sanitation district.
Correct.
Okay, I need you to write that one line on a sticky note, sticky side up, please. Create a sanitation district. That would be the first step. And then the second sticky note that you're going to write is create a central site for recycling and trash in the CBD. All right, you guys get the drift of what I'm going for? Specifics. This was a big deal when we went through this process with the BOT because it's otherwise we don't know what we're going toward. We don't know if we accomplish the goal. Okay. Next, Riverwalk. What does that mean? What are the tactics associated with that? What would be the how we know that we succeeded? And then did you hear my second sticky note?
I didn't.
Create a central recycling.
That's all. That's what it says.
Okay, the same thing, sanitation district. Okay, I'll go with it. Were you going to talk?
Yeah, the Riverwalk is to create along the creek a point of interest to have people meet under the town more so and enjoy the scenery and learn about what Nederland is about.
Right, but what are the specific things that have to be accomplished in order to do that Riverwalk? Because there are already some things that you guys have done, right?
Identify land and
Talking to your mic, Andrew. We have Steve online. Hi, Steve.
hi, Steve.
I'm going to do my best to remember that you're there and bounce back and forth between the folks in the room and you online, okay?
Yes, no problem. And I won't be bashful if I want to speak up. I just wanted to apologize for not being in person. If Jen and my other son are gone, so I have my daughter, and it was hard to be down offsite for two hours.
No problem. No problem. Okay, Andrew.
I would say, presuming we know what we're talking about when we say Riverwalk, it'd be identify the land, identify the boundaries where the Riverwalk is, what it is, and the landowners that it impacts, and what the goals are. So.
Okay, so we're at that step of even the beginning of even identifying the land to use for the Riverwalk. Is that a correct statement?
It's already in our operating budget, our project budget.
Is your thing on? Yeah, okay.
It's already in the project budget.
Okay.
The two people who are overseeing that one, neither one of them is here right now.
Oh,
But it's meant to be that beginning due diligence to find out all the stuff from the past, what conversations, who, because it's kind of like you said, it's evolved. There's been things, but this is the very beginning. It's not meant to be aggressive this year in our project budget. Anybody jump in if I'm wrong. It was just meant to get the ball rolling. And that committee was literally formed at our last meeting. So they're just starting. So they want to continue that. They want to continue that. And that's what they were saying, is that they want that project to stay as a priority, I think was the goal of that.
Maybe that five, why, who, what, where, when, why, Riverwalk. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Yeah, you're getting what I'm getting to, right? And going back to the budget, what's actually line item in the budget for the Riverwalk? What specifically?
It's called Riverwalk.
Okay, so it's just Riverwalk. There's nothing other specifically like any other of the other tactics. It's just a line item for Riverwalk.
It's just a line item to that if they got to a point that they wanted to do a study or get some documents from JVA or anything like that, that there was money available to make that happen. That was the main reason, is that that bucket was set up for that purpose.
Okay, so for those two people who are not here, if we were to speak for them and we were to say, identify the create, it's almost like create a plan for the Riverwalk, and part of that is identifying the land, that would be a fair statement. Okay, can somebody?
I think that's been done. We have surveys and maps that show where there's been a lot of people interested in this for years. So there is history behind this.
And that's what the point is, to get all of that stuff, because I don't think everybody knows where some of that is, because even in, the DDA files, it's kind of limited, and I only know some things because of emails in the past. So I think that was the whole point of that group, was talking to people like you, Ron, who's been a part of that conversation and getting that due diligence, if that makes sense.
So I have the survey from that one, and I've handed that over to Barb. She's on that team, so she has that. And I'm sure that Catherine will also be looking at it as well. In fact, I'm sure we all will be in.
Okay, all right.
If you wanted something specific.
Could we
But
say
the-
Riverwalk collect existing data?
Well, and find new findings.
And probably identify the plan for the new, what are the gaps? Identify the gaps in the information, right? It's like, what do we don't know that we still have to figure out, might be the good first step. So you'll kind of start to see a theme. It's like, okay, that's great, but are we on the same page of what this means in terms of a Riverwalk, and what are the next tactics and everything? And so that's what I'll be trying to drill into.
I think maybe to that point, like the overall Riverwalk goal, what is that?
What is it?
mean? What is the goal?
What is it identified as? Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, what are we getting to, and how do we know we got to it? Thank you so much. So, so you'll also probably start to see that we won't finish necessarily the work today if there's some more gaps and for some specificity that we have to fill in. Okay. Next one, provide more support to event organizer who are working on promoting tourism. Help me. Provide more support to event organizer who is working on promoting tourism. I think that was trustees Portland's comment. It's meant to be space, so maybe I don't know. But generally, when we've talked about it, it's been her wanting to make sure that we're into event organizers. Nope, not that time. Sorry about that. It's like,
Well, and I'm
hear
not
her.
used to talking this much either with you also. It's, now I have to.
Oh, I bring it out in you. Is that what you're saying? That's okay. I like that. Okay, so it's to provide more support to event organizer.
Yeah, organizer.
Organizers who are working on promoting tourism.
So I think getting people to come up to town to events. I think that's generally, but I could be wrong, but that's what I took from it when I read those comments.
I think,
Right, I think it's not, oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
yeah, I think the other thing, when that came up in the meeting, it was around like how we're supporting different events and events that are actually driving large numbers of people to come to town versus other events that might get equal support that don't really have much tourism that's coming from it, or even participation. Trying to be able to assess as we're supporting events, like, are 1,000 people going to show up for this, or are 6? That was some of the context when that came up in conversation.
And so is the idea that the NDDA would support the high tourism events?
I think that was the goal.
That was the goal? Okay.
That was my understanding of that conversation.
All right. So I'm going to need you guys to help me out. And this would be, if this is prioritizing your time toward high tourism events, that's not necessarily a goal. That's just like, that would potentially be, you know, I guess a part of your.
Maybe this dovetails into the second one or one below that, which is develop an evaluation system, a vetting process for funding requests.
There we go.
Exactly. I think they're similar to that.
Because do we have that one? Because I thought that was exactly how it was worded. So that was where, so I don't want to confuse things.
So the one where it was develop an evaluation system, that ended up on here. If we're talking the same thing and that piece rolls into that, cool. Because obviously as a part of your evaluation system, how many people are coming? Do we need to prioritize this, or do we need to, you know, create a liaison from the NDDA to it? Or I don't know, whatever you guys would do. But it sounds like that would be a part of your criteria evaluation. Yeah? No?
Yep.
Are we gonna, okay, so I'm gonna move on from that. Increase grant funding available to these events.
Well, I don't know if mine is lacking a bullet point. So is that a separate bullet point, or does that fall under
Oh,
or support?
I reorganized, so I may be working up
Okay.
slightly different, but this one says, yeah, increase grant funding available for these events.
I mean, to me, that falls under, if there was a actual evaluation vetting process for funding requests that in theory brought more, you know, return on the investment of, be it tourism, be it whatever that may be, into the central business district, that increasing the funding is part of the mechanism of that encompassing thing.
How are you going to increase the grant funding though?
Well, if we had a budget, during our budget meeting, we might have a line item that was not necessarily discretionary budget line item, but it was a, you know, tourism event budget that, without knowing specifically what events or
This is
thing.
your grants.
We already do.
This is what you
Well,
would be
yeah.
granting. Okay,
Right.
just to clarify, this is not looking for
Within-
outside
within a
grants.
Yeah. I think, wasn't this to kind of get over there were some decisions
$1,000
made.
here,
Yep,
$2,000.
there were some decisions made last year that said everybody can only get the same.
It was.
And maybe reassessing that and saying that we need to look at something and say, is it 6 people or is it 1,000?
Okay, so technically, this also would go under our evaluation criteria. Is this a correct statement?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't need its own sticky note is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, you are doing brilliant here. Let's keep going. Work on enhancing electrical at Chipeta Park. What exactly are we talking? Do we have a specific tactic here? Because when you say enhance electrical, that can mean a whole lot of kit and caboodle. So,
Yeah, So there's events that are happening at Chipeta Park that require electricity.
Yep.
There's also the performance, well, on the edge of, we'll call it the performance space. I have a hard time calling it that right now because it's a hole with water in it.
There's no performance space. Would
there
be
isn't.
the
But in that space, there is a shed with an unbelievable amount of electricity to facilitate putting on events.
That's
Chipeta,
not Chipeta Park.
that's down by the performance space. In Chipeta Park, there you can unplug the water fountain and use the outlet.
So you're saying we need more of that?
So
I would say probably
I
not.
think we could say
Or
we
maybe
would
more
like to see a 200 amp service with the 4 circuits or 6 circuits.
Has it gone through an evaluation of any type? Do we
No.
know?
No, and I think it comes out of the conversation around the Ned Jazz and Wine is happening in Chipeta
Yes.
Park. and that event requires a sound system. It requires all the infrastructure that's over in the performance space,
Okay.
right? So
Okay.
it's an event that's happening that's approved by town to happen in a space where there isn't infrastructure to effectively make it happen.
So
Mm.
maybe like, and not to go kind of sideways with this, but if it's a comprehensive electrical distribution for Chipeta that would be for events, but also might be for some vehicle chargers and potential infrastructure for if something were to be developed there, like the pump track or not the pump track. I'm not trying to get that far ahead, but just like
Easy now.
at the very least, electric vehicle chargers. If you're going to put a transformer somewhere and bury power lines, it wouldn't take that much more to just put in a couple charging stations for cars and get some of that traffic away from the visitor center.
Okay. So I don't want to get too deep into it, but if we were to say, evaluate, or where did it go? Work on enhancing. Okay. So we'd have to evaluate and then create the plan. Is that your jurisdiction?
Right, so you just
Is
asked
it?
a really
Okay.
good question, because a lot of what we talk about, and even what we've talked about so far this evening, I think we need to also question whether a project or a proposal is really a town project or it's a DDA project. I don't
So-
think that's the-
And I think, so to your point, Scott, it may be, again, something that you advocate and that you support, but I think what you're asking is, does this lady over here take the lead on it? Right? Or is the town
BOT.
or the BOT the lead on it? Okay.
And I think my question was, where would the strategic plan, because like Riverwalk, that's outlined in here. So it's
Yep.
kind of, how does the DDA board's plan that's been approved through all of this go through all this process, because does at some point it work with other partners? Of course, but like, how does that all work together, especially with Riverwalk and, the grant opportunities for businesses? It's all in here. It's just
Right.
how.
Yep. Okay. We're going to evaluate and create a plan for electrical at Chipeta. Oh, Danielle, thank you. She's already writing. We will go through this process and evaluate whether or not that's something that you guys take on, and when we go through our impact versus effort. And many of these things doesn't necessarily mean it's a no, just might mean a not right now. Okay. Which, by the way, is everyone on the same page in terms of what our timeline is of what we're creating these goals for? Is this a year? Is this 18 months? Is this 2 years? A week. I'm going to say that's a no. Okay. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to say that's a no. So what is the timeline here?
Well, I think the different projects are going to have different timelines. I don't think we can get a Riverwalk in 1 year.
No, but the tactics that we put into place should be time bound, or at least identified as close as we can to a time bound. So yes, even with the BOT, there are projects on there that are going to last like 3 or 4 years. But what are the tactics that we're trying to accomplish like this year or the next 18
I think we
months?
should concentrate on next year's projects.
So this is going to be 2024, or rest of this year in 2024. Is this correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we're looking, that's like what, a year? It's a year, and I guess like we did kind of 18 months. And the reason why we did that is so that then we could start planning for the financial budget in 2024 for the rest of the goals. So think in your mind for about the next 18 months of what we want to accomplish. Okay. Next one. You guys are doing great. Finish all the current projects the NDDA is working on. What are those?
Well, I think we just wrapped up Big Springs today.
Like officially done?
Well, it's painted. No one's probably signed the last dotted line, but
I don't know. I saw some checks over here and I saw no, you didn't sign anything? Okay, damn.
it's close.
All right, we're close. Okay,
I
so,
just like to chime in. This is Steve.
hi,
remote.
Steve.
Hi. And not that we're deciding anything here, but I would love to talk to Andrew and Ron about the Big Springs, because to me, it doesn't seem like it's really done. But I just wanted to put that out there so I don't have to text you guys.
Okay, so that could be an open-ended question. We don't have to get into it right now, but it could be, so that Big Springs could be one of those. that needs to be accomplished. Can someone other than Danielle too, please help do the post. She's going to do this one and then she's going to pass it off into other folks so that we all share the love.
That's the
Okay.
wayfinding
Steve,
project.
I'm going to send an email right now about Big Spring so that we keep that moving.
Okay.
Great,
What-
thank you,
what did-
yeah. Appreciate it.
I think there's already a posted up there that says complete wayfinding.
Okay, so wayfinding would be another one of those.
I
That's-
get credit for writing that one.
There you go. I like it. I like how you're, hey, that one's mine. Do I need that one? Okay. Wait, did I get the Riverwalk one? Yeah, I did. Okay. Pedestrian bridge, is that
I think there's still a little bit of work to be done on that, is there not?
what? Okay. Do we know? Yeah, I know, but do we know the thing that needs to be done? Are we all on the same page with that?
It looks like the siding and maybe flower boxes if they're doing flower boxes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, somebody, Scott, can you write down pedestrian bridge? Boy, this is a hazard right here. Doing really good. All right, I'm doing really good. All right, what else? What are we missing?
The murals, right?
No, the murals are back up there.
Talking about the other.
No, just
Big murals.
Murals in general. Aren't there several murals, 2 murals that are
Thank you.
in process that need to be, we're talking about stuff that needs to be finished.
Yeah, the
The picnic tables?
picnic tables should be getting wrapped up this weekend. They need a finish on them. And the covered bridge project only needs a plaque. And the food co-op just needs to be installed.
Or not, yeah.
And then that will wrap up murals for this year.
Okay, wrap up murals. You guys have some projects that weren't on my list here. What else?
So beautification, which is just our standard.
Is that already maintenance? That's already things that you're doing?
Yeah, and so is public art sort of is. It's something we annually fund, but it's different activities. So this is worthwhile, but that's why you're not seeing it because they're kind of things that we've been funding each year. So this is kind of, what's next sort of thing.
There is one on here that says,
To expand
create more art. And
beautification, yeah.
of course, my question is, well, how much? Like we have to get really specific. I know a lot, but give me a number, like 3 or 4.
How big do we know what's done?
Mm.
That one, beautification? I don't think we know.
It's potentially a forever. Yeah, and this was,
Is this really the answer when the allocated budget amounts have been spent and complete for the approved projects are, used?
Because it's back on that the following year, so we don't really finish those projects.
Okay.
Those are.
Yeah. So this is kind of one of the things that we had conversations with Miranda, and that there are some things town staff just has to do when it comes to streets and when it comes to, the sanitation or whatnot, like water meters just kind of has to do, doesn't need to be a goal. That's just our everyday maintenance, but it's sort of like, what are the other things that we're trying to strive to? I know, we're getting there. Okay. Any other existing projects?
What about the performance space? Is that already listed somewhere or is that an ongoing project?
So,
Finish it, I'd say we get progress.
so what I have and what I did not highlight was a very specific tactic on here, which I liked, which was work on a summer concert series using a portable stage. Done. I'm very clear on what that is. So I understand that there may be broader things that we're trying to get to for a performance space, but this is a very specific tactic that I could see us, being able to get to and accomplishing.
Yeah, I'd say examine the cost to buy out whatever grant funds are holding up Gercio Field. I want to know, like the GoCo grant, how much would it cost to buy that out for Gercio Field?
Okay, so there could be an evaluation, and there was something a little bit longer down here, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. It has something about leasing property. May not be the same thing, but there could be something. So if that's something that you want considered, then write it on a sticky note. Okay, any other projects? Sticky side at the top, at the top.
Well, you had parking.
What's that?
You had a parking item.
We did have a parking item.
Let's talk about it in this meeting.
Which one? May not be.
Scott, could you go to the microphone, please?
Yeah, Miranda's, she's gonna get you. Okay, so hold on. So you had said paid parking. I've got paid parking up here.
Well, the other aspects of parking too. Back-end parking on First Street, I would like to add as a specific.
Is parking on First Street? Thank you. Be specific. What is that? What are you talking about?
Realigning the parking from head in to back in on First Street.
Head into back in on First Street. Okay. And so that would be just basically telling everyone that they got to back in.
Isn't it
Yes.
too diagonal to do that? Aren't the parking spaces coming in diagonally?
Yes, you can back in diagonally. We do it in Boulder, and we could do it perpendicular, but it'd be better to do it.
Oh, I see. You'd have to redraw all the lines.
Yeah,
is
we'd
what you're
have to
talking about.
budget a certain amount for signage and redrawing the lines.
Okay, write it on a sticky note. See, you got more ideas coming at me here. All right, this one.
Are we on the traffic supports?
Yeah, what does that mean? Traffic supports and management to alleviate the bottlenecking. Is this just during events?
No, I personally like looking at summers in Nederland. I think I would like to, I guess, to make this as concise as possible, see a budget for parking management and street, and traffic management, where it's a combination of flaggers and like public safety officers that are this will ultimately dovetail with paid parking, but looking at other small communities that have raised a significant amount of funds through parking, as well as help like flow and traffic, I see. So trying to get back and make it concise. It would be great to be able to help the downtown business district with more, not having people show up to a traffic jam in Nederland, and doing this throughout, being prepared to do this every weekend, not necessarily just in the summer, but certainly at high season, because it's just going to continue to get worse and worse. So how can I make that a little bit more simple?
And specific,
And
like
specific.
what's the thing you're gonna do? Because
Is
we've
it like facilitate peak season effective traffic flow?
but how? What is that? Do we have to have a plan? We do have some traffic studies going on. We have multimodal coming and everything. So
Create a plan.
Yeah.
what's the thing?
We need a plan. I mean, I think, in a broad, Steve said it in an ultimate broad sense. Yeah. Come back to me here.
I'm gonna come back to you.
Come back to me.
That's the right thing to say.
Let me
Okay.
ask you, does plan mean come up with something new that we've never done before? Does it mean let's do what we do for events, except let's do it all every weekend?
Yeah, I've never seen flaggers every weekend. I've never seen people like managing a parking lot or parking spots to make sure where it says 2-hour, at least right now it's designated as 2-hour parking only. And there's cars there all day long. If it's going to be 2-hour parking, make it 2-hour parking. If it's going to be 30-minute parking, make it 30-minute parking. But keep those cars moving, keep the intersections from backing up to Eldora, keep the roundabout moving. So
Upgrade traffic regulation.
yeah, like increase budget.
We're not talking about regulation, we're talking about
Increase-
enforcement.
Increase budget for traffic control.
Okay. So increase budget for traffic control on the weekends, summer weekends, not winter,
Yeah, I mean, all the time.
all the time.
Year-round.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hefty budget number.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, write it on, write it down.
I got it.
Oh, that's very kind of you. All right. All right, see, it takes a little bit of brain power to get that out sometimes, right? It's getting it specific. Next. See more artwork throughout town. Danielle, just put it down and give me a number, 2 or 3. Next one, evaluate financial options, including loans and leasing property. Leverage the NDDA's money by considering return on investment. Help.
Ron, that was yours, right?
I want the DDA to consider loaning money as opposed to giving all grants.
Oh, okay. So okay, so NDDA would loan money and also lease its property? NDDA owns property?
Well, yes, if necessary, we might have to lease parking space and then
Oh, I see.
charge for it. We could do that.
Question though, does that, if it's parking space in the central business district?
It's not owned by the DDA, it's owned by the town.
Yeah,
The DDA doesn't own any property.
okay, I just wanted
So the
to,
DDA would have to lease property and sublease it for parking.
would have to lease property and sublease it for parking. Okay. Okay, leverage, okay, so how do we put this specifically, Ron?
I think those are two different things.
They could be.
Yeah, I think, the loans instead of grants is one thing. Like financial options is pretty broad encompassing. I would say that the first thing that you said, Ron, is like, you want to consider loans instead of grants should be.
In addition to, not instead of.
In addition to, okay.
Okay,
Yep.
write that one. Andrew's onto something.
Those
They're,
are two different.
they're two different things. What do you got? What are you doing? Oh, yeah, okay, this was increase public art budget. Okay, we're gonna put that down there. And then the second one, Andrew, what
The
you're
second
saying?
one, I don't, off the top of my head, aside from what is really a hot commodity, which is parking, I can't think of really other examples where the NDDA leasing things, unless it were, let's say, for the performance space and there happened to be a private owner that, for a summer concert series needed, we needed to lease property to put on a concert and then revenue was generated. So, I mean, there could be other, just not having had more than 15 seconds to think about this. I mean, I think, there's probably a lot of other, now how does that fit into our mission and through the vetting process? I don't know, but.
We'll figure that out.
yeah. Okay.
That'll come out in this process right here, right? This will come out in this process. So if you want to write another sticky note there for about leasing property, and the specific goal associated with that, please do so. All right, I need help with this next one. Support with employee retention and workforce. Address the wage imbalance and look at workforce housing options. You guys are gonna solve world hunger after this. Okay, all right. Break it down for me. What is it specifically that we'd be doing here?
So, one of the biggest issues that all the businesses have
Yep.
in this town, we talked about this last time, they're not really limited. They're somewhat limited by things like parking and space, but they're more limited by the fact that we don't have enough people who live here to work in those businesses.
Yep.
Very few businesses are open 7 days a week. Now, we can't really, as a DDA, we can't really fix that, but it is naive and kind of short-sighted, not at least acknowledge that as a limiting factor for all the businesses in this town. When we talk about business, I don't know that we can fix it. We can be part of the conversation, but the conversation should be happening in this town.
And that's kind of why I'm asking. Like, is there something very specific that you guys tackle in this process? Or is it something that you are advocating for as we get through the housing study, as we get through our strategies, as we start to do code changes, that kind of thing?
I think it feels more like advocacy and taking a position and being advisory than it
Okay.
is in doing anything about it.
But I want to check across everyone because that was kind of my feeling too, but I wanted to make sure.
I agree. It's advocating and it's
Yeah.
like paying attention to the results of the study and figuring out how to be a productive part of the conversation.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because a big deal, here's just an example, right? One of those things that can come out of this housing study is the fact that we may need to require some sort of affordable housing with developments. That will be very controversial, and yet that is one of the tactics that we could employ And that would be something that would be coming to the NDDA to ask for your advice and whatnot.
That would require a lot of business modeling and financial modeling, and
Yep,
we should be part of that.
absolutely. So that's one of
At least
those,
be aware of it.
be aware of it, be a part of the conversation like you were saying, right?
So this is not a bad time for us to maybe think about what our role is in this community. Are we in the business of being in business? Or are we in the business of supporting businesses? Because when we start talking about things like taking out lease agreements and operating certain things and buying and selling things, we're kind of doing something different than what I thought we were here to do. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying we should recognize when we step over the line.
Recognizing who we are from a Phil's.
Directing your comment to me specifically.
Well, I'm using that example as one of them. Here's another example of what our role might be is we can't do anything about workforce housing as a team here in this room, but we can be part of the conversation in the community.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other example.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how ProSat came to their decision of their goals. There were some things we can't really do, we can't really affect, but we can be part of the conversation and we can advocate and we can suggest.
So I don't really want to make this complicated, but there are ways that this funding can affect that. It can affect affordable housing developments, especially in a scenario where you are talking about developers having, requirements. Well, here's a way that the DDA can help with that is helping with some of those infrastructure costs, which they just hate paying for.
Mhm.
And that's stuff that we can if it's an eligible district. So that's just an idea, like there is actually a way that we can all come together and help in
Right.
certain things, but I'm just putting my hat on and saying that as an option. I'm definitely not advocating or anything, but I just felt like I didn't want to let that go. I want you to know that there are financial ways that you can help. You can go get new market tax credits and do things. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can be a part of, but it's, you all need to decide your role in that.
So with the housing study, did you want to say something?
I wanted to make the comment that I'm not advocating anything other than what's in the statute in terms of operations of the DDA.
Okay, cool. And again, some of this will get fleshed out in our impact versus effort, and we're right on time to getting to that. In terms of housing, and this is something that even the BOT needs reminders of, going through that housing study, there will be specific goals and things that come out. We are obligated per the grant to have the top, I think it's 3 to 5 things that we have to actually act on.
How soon is the housing study coming out?
We have to start implementing code changes this fourth quarter.
And so the findings will go before the Planning Commission first in September. It's next month.
And then code changes happen after that. They have to happen by the end of the year, or the top 3 to 5 or whatever, right?
Correct. Yes.
So what you may want to do, and this is, we kind of did this a little bit with the BOT, was there were placeholders that we had to create. So if you look at our goals, number 6 at the very end is we're going to implement the things the housing study comes out with. Because here's what I've found out being on the BOT from my very short time, almost a year. Studies are done, and then sometimes it just gets lost. The BOT or the board or whoever, it doesn't matter. It just gets lost. And so we said, nope, we're putting it as a part on our radar. And so if you wanted to, I could see where you could put a placeholder to say, housing study comes out, NDDA will, support or advocate, or however that might look like in terms of some of those things that come out of the housing study.
Can you define again what the housing study is? It's not just the survey, it's more than that, right?
Oh, yes. It's going to be hundreds of pages of analysis and strategy in terms of how we fill the gap, or if, some folks thought there maybe wasn't a gap, I'm telling you there is a gap, a gap in terms of the housing that we have for folks here in Nederland. So it'll be beefy. So yeah, so that was a little bit of a tricky one, and I wanted to pull that out just because we're going to have that conversation between what is we advocate for, what do we actually have a specific tactic that we go and tackle, and what do you need to leave space for because we don't know yet.
So do we put a post-it to have a placeholder for advocating on our efforts, or do we put a post-it on our advocacy to review the?
I'm going to
housing
say, if you're asking me in my opinion, I'm going to say put a sticky note here. And the reason why is because then it could be, after we do this, it could be a dedicated thing that you guys pay attention, that make sure it's on your radar. And once that study comes out and the BOT sets our goals, then you could potentially align to whatever those are, would be a suggestion. Okay. Increase walkability in town. Help. Is this ADA? Is this just connecting the sidewalks or the trails? What is this?
I think the conversation was around some of the kind of dirt sidewalks that don't have curbs.
Oh, you mean our crusher sidewalks? Is that, yeah.
Yep.
I know. We tried to get a grant for that. We were denied. Okay. Is this, okay, so this would be removing, or this would be replacing crusher sidewalks
With concrete.
with concrete.
It is.
That is the very specific goal, correct?
Yes.
Or does anybody else have a different understanding?
I think that it's a pretty broad term of, increased walkability in town, and that seems a lot bigger than just fixing some sidewalks that had crusher fines. But I do think also like the wayfinding, we're thinking about that, trying to get people out of their cars and then directing them by foot, where they need to go and give them the information of, where they can walk around town. So that seems like, it ties in. But I wasn't at the last meeting when you guys came up with these ideas, but it seems like it's a much broader statement than just putting concrete in the sidewalks that had crusher fines.
It could be broader than that. It may be creating sidewalks where there are none right now too. Or it may
Right.
be, we probably can't go out there and widen state highways to get more shoulder on them, but so let's keep it focused to what we can do and what really has high impact in town,
So what can you do?
sidewalks.
Okay,
We can.
crusher.
Yeah,
Sidewalks.
we don't need to make a goal that's so big it takes us 10 years to do it.
Right.
If we can do something with our sidewalks and we can do it in a way that we can afford it and it increases the value of what we got here,
Okay.
infrastructure wise, then if we can do that, why wouldn't we?
Okay. So if we were to narrow it down to that very specific goal, replace crusher sidewalks with concrete.
I think specifically that's exactly what this meant,
Okay.
and not to interfere with the wayfinding, whatever.
Okay. Wayfinding, but is already in place in one of those existing. Okay. You guys got one more. You did this. Work with town and the Mountaineer on public engagement. Is this meant to be public relations, announcements, support for NDDA? Is this really public engagement? You want people to show up more to your meetings? What does this mean?
I find this goal out of the parameters of the statute.
Okay, well, that's all right too.
I think it was meant more of showing the good work that the DDA is doing and how much work that they have accomplished in the last few years. I think that was kind of the intent because there is stuff from the past. And I think it was just acknowledging how far the DDA has come and, getting Big Springs done, accomplishing these things.
Mhm.
And I think that was kind of where the thought process was in that, in celebrating what the goals are and just making sure people understand the DDA's role in the community and that they are doing things.
Okay. So it's not public engagement. It's more of, which I thought we had
I
somewhere.
think it's education.
Okay, so it's awareness as well. It's like awareness of what the NDDA is up to.
I'll go with awareness.
What did you say? I was scanning because I thought that maybe there was another one. All right, somebody throw down awareness of the NDDA, public relations. Oh, I think she's already got it.
Can we go back to something that's up there on the board?
Absolutely, because this is where we're going to continue. We're going to make sure we're all in agreement with what's on the board. Anything?
There was a topic that I was really, pushing hard at the last meeting. And I think what it says up here is develop an evaluation system for funding requests.
Yes, sir.
That's probably what got written.
Okay, is that not what should be written?
Well, I don't think of it as a project. I think of it as a way that we should operate. We should be a little bit more vigorous and diligent in the way that we evaluate. We don't necessarily have to have a scorecard. If somebody wants to come up with a scorecard, we can do that. But I think we need to ask harder questions.
But where are those questions?
I'm
I
very
can
much,
bring them to you.
Do we have those questions? Are they in a document? Do we all know all the questions that we all are operating from?
We do not yet, and that's why I'm asking for it.
So we got to develop the thing, is what I took away from that. Is that true?
We do have to develop the thing, but we have to develop a mindset too that
Oh,
is,
I like
think, just more vigorous.
Yeah.
And a little bit more diligent in the way that we talk about proposals and ideas and requests.
Okay, I like it. That can be a part. Yeah, I think that can be a part of the evaluation.
I can help make that.
Okay. Oh, okay. We're already going to put names on them. I like it. Yes.
I'm
Mr. Mitchell.
definitely in favor of the scorecard idea because I think it makes the decision more impartial.
Yes.
And it gives the applicant a better sense of the review that he's gone through to, it's like getting a grade on your term paper.
Everyone's on the same page. They all know, right? They all know what we're trying to get to.
I heard you say that was the last item. I'm looking at an agenda. I don't know if I have a different one, but there's some other things that we didn't talk about.
Like what? Give me one.
Well, one would be grant writing support for businesses.
Right here.
Oh, that's already up. Okay. Do we have the assist town with hiring staff, ambassadors?
Yep.
Okay. We
So
got
the ones that I didn't have questions about,
got it.
the ones that
Okay.
you guys
You may
did
have
pretty good
in the
on,
bathroom when you.
that's all right. That's all right. I did some of the homework for you with the sticky notes. All right. All right. Anything that we're missing? Steve online, I apologize. I know you cannot see our sticky notes. Just hang with me. Everything that was on the goals that you guys came up with, everything should be represented here. But before we go into the next stage, which we're right on time, well done, is anything that we're missing? Think hard.
I just wanted to follow up on either Andrew or Scott that was just talking, because I also see change code to prevent empty buildings from just sitting there. Has that been addressed?
It is on our sticky notes.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, now things are going to get real interesting here as I write and hold a microphone. All right, so next is impact versus effort. The criteria here is, as we start to take our sticky notes, we're going to put them along this continuum. High impact, low impact, high effort, low effort. However, before we get to that point, we need to define what these things are. So when you think of impact, and this is going to go back to our philosophy, who are we? Who, what are we impacting? You as the NDDA. What's the impact?
Probably one thing I think would be helpful maybe to have everyone, read back to the NDDA's charter, but presumably for the benefit of the central business district, to what extent, I guess, if the only metric is financial,
Is that the only metric?
I don't know. I'm not saying if that's the
okay.
only metric, but what, so impact, what does that mean?
Yeah. Because we can all operate from different silos of what impact means, and this is an opportunity for us to get on the same page. So you got to throw it out there. Danielle, what do you think?
Do we impact our town more positively or negatively? If they've seen us not accomplish projects, they speak negatively. If they see us accomplish projects that are well done, we impact them positively.
And so how would you measure positive or negative?
Word of mouth in conversation. Like when I talk to people within my personal community who doesn't necessarily know that I'm on the DDA or what we're up to, I get feedback on what they think our town has been up to and how effective they are. We are.
And so how would you grade as to whether or not any of these projects has a high impact?
How visible is it to the main community?
Okay. Okay, so that's interesting. That's not something I may have thought of. So visibility. Because some things are not very visible, especially on the BOT. But for the NDDA, I could see where visibility might be a much bigger issue for you guys. Yeah, Ron?
Whether or not it's long-term or short-term.
Impact?
Yeah.
So what is it for you guys? Are you guys, so this was something for the for ProSAP that they answered. For them, they wanted to prioritize long-term or projects that set a foundation for long-term.
I think every advisory group in town and the BOT would say what we're looking for is to make positive impact in the long run. I don't think there's any group that say, no, we're just going for the short run. So we can just.
We're in it and we're out. Right.
Yeah. But, you know, it's not always obvious and it's not always super visible when positive impact is achieved. There are examples all over town where, you know, things happen on the periphery, but they do make it easier to be downtown and get downtown and do business downtown. And there are other things that happen that make it easier for businesses to actually bring people in and have a well-running, clean, productive business. And all of it, there isn't any single thing that's going to make it or break it. There'll be single things that can break it. But when it's working right, all the businesses are benefiting, hopefully, from the things that we do well.
Okay.
And sometimes the impact is positive for, you know, for everybody and everything that's going on downtown. It'll be positive for the people who go downtown to do business as visitors or as residents. But there's so many other factors that play into it that we'll never be able to say the only reason that these three businesses are killing it right now is because we put parking in right there. There's too many other factors. So we'll know we're having a positive impact when we evaluate things properly and when we see that things are actually working.
Okay, so a lot was just coming at me, so let me just clarify a few things. Ron, you said short-term, long-term. Are we pretty much all in agreement or that we are trying to do projects for the long term?
That's our statutory requirement.
Okay, just want to make sure that we're all.
But even when we do things that are for the short term, hopefully they benefit us and the community in the long run, right?
Okay,
When we do
so
a festival.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Because I think that there are a lot of our projects that are basically business services category up from the statute or from our bylaws that are much more short term, you know, like grants for events in town. But like Scott just said, you know, if we get a festival going and it succeeds and grows, like maybe Ned Jazz, for example, you know,
Sure.
then that can be a long-term improvement for the town. So, but I do think it's important to acknowledge that a lot of our business services things on the surface are really short-term goals, you know, for the year or the next year in terms of granting money for a festival or helping with traffic control or whatever.
Maybe
and
duration might be a word right there.
say that again,
Duration, you know.
like long-term duration or
Whatever the duration is of whatever of these, you know, different sticky notes, you know, I guess long-term, it's just semantics, but whether it's
yeah,
long-term,
it's
short-
kind of it's maybe a long-term mindset
Yeah.
is what you guys are going for, right? It's not like you're just trying to do something for the quarter here or the quarter here. There oftentimes, except for like what Steve was talking about, oftentimes these things you want to pull out for future, right? for folks to continue to do. So it's kind of a long-term mindset. Real quick, I need to clarify, are we doing this for, are you guys prioritizing and looking at impact for businesses? Because I heard you also say visitors, and I also heard somebody say the residents themselves. So
when you make it better for people who are coming in as consumers, whether we live here or we visit here, when you make it better for them, you're making it easier for businesses to do quality work.
okay, so when you make it better for locals or?
Anybody who's walking into a shop, coffee shop, a store, you name it, when when we talk about walkability downtown, for example, I mean, that's for the benefit of the people who are trying to go into the front door of a shop mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we make that easier for consumers, we're also making it better for the business.
Okay, so I guess, who's still the priority? Is it the consumer or is it the business?
It's the business by statute.
It's the business.
Yes.
Are we all aware of that or agreement or?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, that's, I believe our statute to be supporting, we're taking money from tax on businesses to re-support the central business district.
Okay.
And be it, primary, secondary, or tertiary things that may have cultural benefits or arts benefits or, benefits for residents or consumers. It all ultimately is geared back towards the businesses of the central business district.
Okay, Danielle?
This is a question we should ask every time we have a new request or a new proposal.
Exactly. It will funnel through into your evaluation criteria. Were you going to say something?
Yes, along that line that's a hard one to always remember, is that it is based on businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I think Steve Carell brought it up and the dialogue here, it's interesting because I think if you say that the long-term strategic goal is a thriving business community, then if you step back, some of these things are they're tactical things that are happening over and over, like planting flowers, like in and of itself that's not going to be a long-term thing. But if that's part of a tactic to get at a long-term thriving business community, then it is.
There you go.
Like festivals and tourism and
Yep.
and acknowledging that we need to have a lot of short-term tactical things that roll up into a strategy.
There we go. So I'm going to write creates thriving, and it's a little squishy because it's like, how do you evaluate that? But we kind of know when we walk down a business district and we can feel it's thriving. There's the art, there's the plants, there's people, it's accessible. Strollers and people with ADA needs can get through our sidewalks, right? We kind of know, we kind of feel what that's like. But I think to your point, Danielle, when you say we've got to remember, we got to come back to that frequently, that it is a business, we are a business first entity. I think that's wise. What else in terms of impact? Is there anything else? Let's talk about the financials. Let's talk about some of these other things that can be measured. Is that something that you look at?
Development, not that, development as a whole, not necessarily building, paving, building things, but, the development, getting back into, creating a thriving business district, being the Nederland Downtown Development Authority, what is our, I think,
okay,
getting back to, reading our own charter and mission statement is something to be revisited.
For sure. Yeah. We'll if I had a parking lot, I would have put that over there. So I'll make sure to remind y'all the next time I visit. Okay. So anything else from an impact standpoint? ProSab, as an example, they prioritized projects that would bring in revenue. That was just for them from a recreation standpoint, right? So there's some of their projects did have a financial perspective. Is there anything along those lines for you all?
Well, I think the idea of making loans, they will carry interest. So that's a revenue thing that we've already got on one of our.
Yeah, but is it a priority? That's what I'm asking. Is that how you assess impact with your projects?
It depends on the individual board member. For me, it is.
Okay.
Maybe,
but
sorry, I was not to change here. I think, revenue for the town, like
Okay.
what, if there's things that we do in partnership with the town, departments that are able to bring money into the town's coffers and help town carry on town services that then help, again, it's kind of a longer, bigger picture thing, but helps ultimately all the, it's all the same infrastructure. If the roads don't turn to dirt at the end of the central business district. So,
Andrew, I know at some point during some meetings, we've looked at tax revenue by month as a metric of that was a good month for town, to be able to say if the businesses collected and paid taxes at X amount in a month. So is that a way of quantifying that?
And what you're saying is hey, is town benefiting from our efforts in the central business district? Is there revenue being generated for the businesses for town, right? So I guess in a sense, I do hear that there's a revenue component. It's about creating value and creating revenue
So you create,
for the business.
you're creating tax revenue, but the other thing you're doing is creating opportunities for people to work,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when businesses are open 7 days a week instead of 4 days a week, that's a move towards thriving. When they have to shut down 2 or 3 days a week, that's not thriving.
Mm-hmm.
And people can't live here. And I'm just touching on this topic because we talked about it minutes ago.
Yeah.
But that's another way to look at it.
Yeah.
We can measure a lot of stuff, and we should be measuring stuff as much as we can.
I like measuring stuff.
Yeah. I think that the tax number is something that's it's a public number,
Yeah.
and that doesn't require a ton of effort to get how do we, there's a lot of other things that you could say would indicate that the town had a great month or a great year. That's not public. There's no public access to it, and there's no way to roll that data up. So if there's a metric that if a business is open more, they're going to pay more taxes, right? So that metric, to me, feels like a pretty good way of saying did town have a positive,
Right.
successful business environment for a month?
Right. And if anybody knows seasonality, you do, right? I mean, you guys are only open half the year. And so one of the things we should be doing too with businesses that are downtown is measuring, okay, if we're looking at tax revenue, we should be looking at multiple years to see not how December compares to July, but how December compares to the prior December and the
Yeah.
December before that, right? Because that's how you guys do it. Yeah.
And the
So we
VOT
can do
looks
that.
at that too. Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
So it's okay. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. When I put impact up here, we want to make sure that there is, we're helping our businesses generate revenue. Would that be a correct statement?
Yes.
It's definitely part of it. for
Okay.
sure.
All right. I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
I just wanted to chime in here that, I think if you go back to the Colorado statute for the development of downtown development authorities, I think the primary focus, which I think is not ours, but primary focus for establishing that state statute is for DDAs to increase the property values and reduce blight in the central business
interesting.
district of their town. That's almost literally what the primary focus is of the statute. And I think that, our DDA forever, since I've been on the board, whatever, 5 or 6 years, has always been a lot more looking at and interested in, I think, the business services side of what we do, which is more ties in a lot more with sales tax revenue, which doesn't come into play at all in the Colorado statute. There's nothing about sales tax revenue, but that follows from, developing businesses and helping businesses. And so in the similar way, maybe that property value is increasing and private-public partnerships that the DDA is supposed to be doing, helping people develop their buildings within the central business district. That also will play off by helping businesses run their businesses better and attract customers. But I just wanted to throw that in because the whole topic, the whole last 30 minutes has been talking about basically business services, and that's what we've always been focused on. So I just want, not that we need to change it or really even analyze it right now, but I think it's worth noting just that really is different from the Colorado statute that was established for DDAs, the primary reason for it. I just wanted to enter that into the conversation in whatever way or none.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Sure.
Do we want to do something about that? And, it's
Oh,
part of statute or whatnot, but, I think I'm just gonna, if I can just make a note of that off on the side, we don't have to dig into it now.
Sure.
I sent you all links, the link to our website where it has all of your guiding documents so that you can just go through there and click on anything that you'd like to look at. But the bylaws are there, the chart, everything is on that page of the web.
Well, maybe that's also part of one of the impact metrics is, for commercial or property values, period.
It could be. I mean, especially if it's written into your statutes. And this, you guys will need to go through a little bit of a cleaning up process after we do this. Like, hey, how much does this align with our statutes? Did we miss something? Likely we will miss something. And so that's where we're going to want to enter in some of this stuff. Okay. So we can get to our sticky notes. Effort. What does effort mean for us? So if we're going to put these along impact versus effort, what would be considered low effort versus high effort?
You got time,
Everything's high
time and
up.
money.
You'd be surprised how many things might end up being low effort, but high impact.
When we do something that we haven't done before and we have to reinvent a process,
Oh, yuck.
that's a lot of effort.
Yeah,
When we do something that we already know how to do it, we just have to
do it.
decide to
Mhm.
do it and find the right place and the right budget to do it. That's a lot more moderate as far as effort goes. And some of those things can have high impact as well.
Yeah,
So-
I think Andrew, you said it quick, but it didn't really come through.
What's that?
Time and
Yeah.
money. Yeah. Right?
Yes.
Like time and money is like,
So give me what those thresholds are. How are we chunking up the time that would consider something low effort versus a high effort?
In 1 year?
Okay, is what? Okay, so that would be a low effort, is less than 1 year. Anybody have a different idea? Danielle, are you gonna say something?
Maintaining something we've already developed an efficient program for.
Okay, so that would be what? Low?
That would be low to maintain. And then if we have to
Okay.
create a program for something, a way to do it, that would be more.
Okay, so low might be maintenance. Effort is creating a whole new thing. Anybody disagree?
No, I would just throw out like an hourly, given that currently we only meet once a month
Yep.
for 2 hours and we're talking minutes, sum total of that, anything more than, 8 hours is for, I think, any individual board member, anything above, 20 hours is probably, I would really, if it's a true 20 hours of, all in time, that's very high effort. So I don't know where that threshold is. And then money wise, like.
Well, so
Yeah.
pause right there on the time.
Yeah.
Let's figure that out first. We need to figure that out as a group.
Yeah,
Is it 20 hours? Is it a year?
just thinking of like, for example, how much time it's taken to do, involve in emails. I would say that something that's more than, over the course of a year, I'd want to say, it's hard, 16 to 20 hours. If it's dedicated on one specific project, that may not seem like a whole ton, but, it's, I think for a volunteer board that's doing a lot of other things.
Could be a lot, huh?
Yeah.
All right, I need a time frame.
Here's
me.
what everyone else thinks.
So there's two ways to look at time. One of them is how much time is someone spending writing emails, doing analyses and writing proposals. And the other one is how many months or years does it take us as a group to go from, here's my idea, to how many months or years does it take us to go from an idea to a completed project? And that can take, we might spend no more than 20, 30 hours on something as an individual, but it might take 2 years to finish a parking lot.
Well, Big Springs took 4 years, and I can attest, I'm pretty sure Andrew put more than 100 hours in on that.
I don't think I put nearly that much into it.
So, but the point, so yes, some of these projects may pull over into next year, but this is our continuum to figure out how are we going to categorize if, for instance, free bus pass for employees of Nederland businesses is a high effort or a low effort. You guys have to tell me this. You're the board. You have to tell me what that time frame is.
So breaking it down, how often the conversation comes up compared to how quickly it's accomplished. So if the example of providing free bus passes takes a couple of emails to correspond with town to get bus passes and an agreement on what kind of paperwork that would need, that could be accomplished within a month. If
Okay.
we push at it and focus on it and make it a priority, creating a priority takes effort, but having it accomplished within a month isn't something that takes 4 years.
Okay. Is this a less than 3 months, greater than 3 months? Is this a less than 6 months, up to a year?
I think maybe there's at least three different levels that I can think about. I think at a per meeting level, anything that's taking at least 30 minutes of time at a meeting is, I would put towards the high, so I'd say on the high end, it'd be 30 plus minutes per meeting, question mark, or is it under 30 minutes a meeting?
Okay.
Would be, lower end. And then on an individual hourly basis, everyone's going to have to speak for themselves, but I would say that if something is taking more than 4 hours a month of dedicated.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to help us. All right. So we're just going to put it down.
Yeah.
And if we end up we're wrong and we want to correct it later, we will, but we got to move on. Okay.
Sure.
So anything that's 4 hours or more per month.
An individual basis.
Okay.
And I'd say 30 minutes or 30 plus minutes is high, and less than 30 minutes
Within a meeting.
within a meeting.
We discuss it
If
for
we,
30 minutes.
it's a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Skip the meeting one.
And then
Give me a timeline, like
a yearly, I'd say anything that's taking over a year, is
Okay.
high.
So this might be 1 year or plus, and this might be 6 months.
Sure.
Around.
Yeah, less
Okay.
than a year.
All right. Somewhere in there. Does it need to be exact? Again, we're trying to just dial things in.
Excuse me,
Yep.
would someone be able to take a good photo of that board? I've never seen it, and text it to me or email it to me? So I
Sure.
could see what's going on over there off the screen. And I'm sorry I'm not there.
That's okay.
Uh,
We do the best we can anyway.
Be right back. I'm just gonna grab some water.
My first
I
question to
think
you.
financial, we just have to, we forgot that
Oh.
on the high and low, we got to put at least a budget,
Thank you.
budgetary, I think maybe, oh, this is a tough one. Scott, you want to?
It's all right. Just give it a go. Just throw something out there.
Say if all in on a project, if we go 180,000 or more, that's a big project. We'll
Okay.
have ones that are a hell of a lot more than that too.
Okay. Are some of these projects that we're looking at, what's the threshold, would you say, average of some of these projects,
Evaluated them yet, I don't know.
Okay, so,
We have things that only require a couple $1,000s for us to chip in to get somebody to do a festival because they want to do a festival.
mhm.
And then we have, and we only spend 6 minutes talking about it, right? And boom, it's done and it happens. And then there's other things that take years for us to do, and we'll spend, $200,000, $300,000
Yeah,
and talk about it for months and months and months.
Maybe if we could have a mid there, I'd say, less than 50,000
Yep.
might be low.
Yep.
And, 100,000 might be in the mid, and over 150,000 would be high. 180, 200, yeah.
somewhere in there.
Okay.
And this may even be like 100,000. But yeah, 50,000 was the number I was thinking of too. Okay.
Yeah.
And again, we can always correct it. Let's get to our stickies. First question for you. It was articulated in your goals that maintenance, or at least finishing the projects that you already have in queue may be a priority. Would that be a correct statement? Okay, so what I have in my hands are Big Springs details for completion, wrap-up murals, pedestrian bridge, and finish wayfinding. Was there anything else that I'm supposed to put in here? No, Riverwalk is just getting started.
I mean, performance space is kind of a, we've contracted with JVA to do something. They've started it. It's floating out there. I don't,
That one might be a little bit of a bigger ongoing project that requires specific tactics. These sound like they're kind of wrapping up. Would that be correct? Wayfinding, Big Springs details, art murals, and wayfind pedestrian bridge. This is the group. I'm forcing you into a decision with these four. High impact, low impact, high effort, low effort. Where do they go?
Go into different spots, so let's do one at a time.
We can't do them one at a time. I'm forcing you into a decision because these will be potentially things that you prioritize and get done. Yep. Big Springs details for completion, wrap up murals, pedestrian bridge, and finish wayfinding.
I can't speak to the wayfinding, but those all seem pretty low effort and, for what we'd have to do, the impact is already, going to happen or happened. And
You guys have probably already identified that these are high impact
Yeah.
because you've been putting time and effort toward them.
Yeah, I'd say to finish them up, low effort, high impact.
And that's sort of why I'm forcing you to put them all together, is because typically our low effort, high impact, those are low hanging fruit. Knock
So-
them out.
Let's not confuse ourselves into comparing new projects to these and saying, well, if pedestrian bridge was low effort, then this ought to be low effort because these are low effort because we've already.
That's right. And if we go by our thing, they should be wrapped up clearly within less than 4 hours in a month, per month, less than 6 months for sure. And they probably don't require any more budget, right? I mean, I'm guessing these are taking like maybe a couple of months. Is that true to wrap up?
You didn't stack the complete wayfinding in with that, did you?
Oh, that's an exception?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, we finally have a plan, but we haven't contacted a contractor to construct signs.
this is maybe the first phase of wayfinding.
Yeah, we're in like the first phase of a 3-phase project. And like when we look at the low to high, like we're well over $150,000 to complete it. I would say, I mean, the time frame for, and Steve, jump in if I'm off on this, but I think like that still, it has a high impact, but there's still a high effort for us to complete that project.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I agree.
So we have 27 stickers left in 35 minutes.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate that. All right. So we'll put that one over here under finish wayfinding phase 1. Or this is probably going to be several phases. Okay. But that one sounds like it's a little bit more of a complex deal.
Yep.
Also for that, all that we're going to finish today is making sure that we prioritize these. And then what's going to happen in your homework time away from this is you'll actually choose based off where we categorize them, what needs to be the focus of the NDDA. Because we're going to have quite a few up here. And then we'll drill those down into like the top 4, 3 to 5. Okay. Develop an evaluation system for funding requests. Is it a high effort?
I think it'll be high effort to get it started. And once we develop the habit, it'll be a very, very worthwhile, much easier way to do what we do.
Okay. So it'll be more than 4 hours per month and take about a year to do?
We should be getting better at this within months.
So
If we have the
maybe
discipline to do it.
mid-high, maybe mid-impact.
Nope, you got to pick a box. Low or high?
I think it should be, it'll be high impact.
It'll be high impact, but what about effort?
Close to the midline.
That's
Nope.
what I'd say, too.
Andrew, I'm not going to let you pick on the midline. Pick a box.
I think we're intelligent enough to come up with a list of how to keep it low. Yeah.
I think you
We'll
guys
pay
figured that
attention.
one out. Because again, using our criteria, okay? Back in parking on First Street. High, low, effort.
So that's a lot of effort.
A lot of effort.
Right.
It's high impact too.
Okay, we've got disagreement. So this is what this is about too, is being able to flesh out the disagreement. Because if we have a disagreement on the impact, right, we've got to talk it out. That's what we're here for. All right.
I think that sticky should be stuck also with the comprehensive parking. You know, there's another sticky up there that has to do with parking plan, and yeah, let's lump that together.
All right, next time you're facilitating this, okay? That's exactly what we're going to do. Because a lot of these are, well, we'll take them one by one, but oftentimes these are going to be ended up on top of each other because it's part of one kind of bigger comprehensive plan. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Is what, implement paid parking? Oh, a more comprehensive plan for the parking. Gotcha. Yes, I may have said that. But the point being is that, yes, we need so what you're saying is having a comprehensive plan is high impact. Yes, having that plan.
Anything to do with parking and traffic flow should all get stuck together and be high impact and high effort.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree, Andrew. That's great.
This is employee parking. So this is what I've got. Employee parking, back end parking on First Street, and implement paid parking. Now,
There's traffic control budget that should go in there as well, I think.
Oh.
Develop new park.
and this is develop new parking.
Increased budget for traffic control.
Now, you would say that's the same
Yeah,
as this,
yeah.
and you wouldn't
Because
separate them out.
Traffic control is part of a parking plan.
Yeah,
Are we in
They
agreement?
all tie together.
Are we in agreement? Because I'm not going to do it unless,
I think as long as it's a comprehensive plan, all of those things fit in. Then those are tactics to a strategic plan.
oh, I like it. Okay, hold on. Where was the, no, I need the
Increased budget for
the-
traffic control. That's the two up from the bottom middle.
increased budget for traffic control. Okay. So all of this is create strategic parking plan. Would this be correct? Okay, somebody give me a sticky for that.
But it's traffic and parking, right? Because some of those
Yes,
were
traffic and parking.
traffic.
Okay. And who has the sticky? You got it? All right.
I'm working in here.
Now,
And
my,
you said you also had the sticky up there that had to do with like flagging and, you know, information officers and.
yep,
parking.
that was, oh,
Increase.
so that's the
public-
same
yeah,
thing?
Assist, train, public safety, yeah.
And pays,
We call public safety officers something other than like meter maids, because they're not quite the same. Yeah,
gotcha.
but, you know,
Okay, so this is
similar.
all part of a comprehensive parking and traffic.
It's welcoming Nederland Town to people who are driving into it.
Okay, now, where? You want me to put it over here?
Yeah, for real.
Perfect. All right. No problem. Buy a cardboard compactor and sell cardboard.
Let's put that on the sanitation district sticky.
Okay, thank you.
And then
This is where, when we find related things like that, we combine them. Where?
High effort,
Very high effort.
high impact too.
Is it going to have a high impact? My question to you in this next sort of 18 months.
Yeah,
It'll take more than 18 months.
Okay.
I think the impact's more high than it is low because Nederland wants to be more of low waste, more
Yeah, zero waste.
environmental, I
Yeah.
think that will carry far.
Okay. Does everyone else agree that this is a high impact? I'm hearing none. Oh, Andrew, you want to say something?
I agree, it's high impact.
I think, in a, not that this is on the mission of property values, or businesses, but ultimately like watts, energy, what we're putting out versus what we're consuming. And, if, the sanitation district and waste management can ultimately, help us get more by, putting out less energy, then, it's a win-win for everyone. So
Okay.
I don't know if that was too broad and weak of an answer, but
I think I'm hearing a consensus of high impact, high effort.
I want to caution the group against calling everything high impact.
Mm-hmm. This is
So-
why we have our criteria.
Yeah.
So you gotta look at that.
But that's a criteria for effort. We don't really have we have a description of high impact.
Mm.
In the terms of blight, I really hate having a dumpster that the animals get into right beside my dumpster every single week, right beside my business. It looks terrible, it smells terrible, and it's bad for business. If we can have a central control group of maintaining that in an effective way, because not everybody who goes through town will go up to the transport station.
That if it's done well, super high impact, sure.
Okay. How about this? Grant writing support for businesses.
That certainly might be one where we could get a grant for, you could put grant writing on that because,
Write a grant to get a grant.
it's a, not only high impact, it's high financial commitment.
Mm-hmm. But so it could be high impact. How about effort?
Ron, you're putting it with sanitation? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So are you, I thought you were being facetious. I was like, yeah.
No, we agree.
Okay, so
That's a
be,
great idea.
so have this with sanitation, the sanitation district,
Yes.
to write a grant. But what you need is do you actually need to get like a grant writer? Because it says grant writing
No, I
support.
think we have a grant writer with us.
Do we?
Yeah, Kate.
Oh,
That's,
that's your job. Okay.
There used to be more, they used to have people come in from Front Range and that and do more clinics and things right when HubNet first started. I'm not using the right words right now. I'm sorry, it was before my time. But I know that there was a lot more effort put into, especially working with Boulder County, to bring more resources up here to help businesses and small businesses. Now, Boulder County changed its focus, which is part of the reason that the DDA changed its focus away from that a little bit, because they kind of put it on Front Range Community College and some other stuff. So we could look at like reigniting those connections if that's what people are looking at. But yeah, I want to understand that one as well.
Okay.
But we want the grant writing to be more global than just a one-time thing for sanitation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Maybe we need to make another sticky that says, investigate grants for waste management, and recycling, and then keep that, because I think, as Steve said, an
Well,
all-encompassing grant, grant support for all of the businesses in all sorts of different aspects.
go ahead.
Are you saying grants for leverage for projects?
yes.
Because that's what I always hear
seed
is that
money
we want to
or-
we want to leverage our money. We want to get
Yeah,
the most
leverage it.
from it. And so finding where those natural connections are.
DDA funds part of it. Maybe the DDA
Yeah.
funds the seed money for the sanitation district.
But this is something that you're already doing.
Well, yes, in theory that is supposed to be what, and I work with Miranda on some different ones. So yes, if it's just more, are we focusing on services or is it about the leverage for the projects? So I guess that's really what the question is for
But
me.
I guess my point is we want to keep that separate. We don't want that to get stacked in with something
Okay.
else and say
Yeah.
that we do it once and we never do it again.
Okay.
But it could be a focus, and maybe would it be maybe a correct statement that it's not Like, do all the businesses know they can come to the NDDA for grant writing help?
No, they don't.
Okay. So it could be something around those lines. If we chose to prioritize it, there could be something around this, a plan around this. Where is this? Low impact, or excuse me, we said high impact, but low effort, high effort.
Both.
No, you don't get to
Call it
go.
low effort.
No, it's good.
Call it low effort because if you're actually hiring somebody, you're
Yeah,
hiring somebody.
yeah. Create and evaluate a plan for power at Chipeta.
I think that's pretty low impact and it'd be high effort or sorry, low effort, high impact.
Okay, we have a suggestion for low effort, high impact. Anybody else decides things differently?
I'm gonna have to beg to differ with you on the impact because it only helps things that happen at Chipeta.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we
Yeah,
can't
I
have
agree with
everything be high impact.
Sure.
Yeah,
What was that, Steve, online?
I agree with what Scott's saying. I think that one's a low impact because of its focus on just anything that happens in Chipeta. You know, it's like
That
it's-
square.
See?
We finally found
Yeah.
another square.
See, this is how we then say may not be something that we focus, it's not a no, it's just not a no right now. Okay. All right, free bus pass for employees of Nederland businesses.
Low effort, low impact.
Low effort, low impact.
Agreed.
Anybody disagree? Do we even have numbers as to how many people would need a bus pass? Okay,
Well, excuse me, but don't, I mean, if people live within Ned or the library district of Ned, which is larger, then they get a bus pass automatically.
they do. If they're busing up from Boulder,
This is beneficial for people who live below and come up to work, right?
we have folks on town staff that do that.
Hmm, okay.
Okay. Bring fireworks back to Ned.
Low priority.
I think that's a low priority just for fire hazards, personal.
Although, have you
opinion.
seen the drone shows lately? They're so awesome. Like, anyway, I divert.
There are lots of people that have alternative ideas, not necessarily related to, it is more about drone, laser. That's what people are the intent. It's not the fire danger.
Okay, let's go back to our impacts. Visibility, long-term mindset, business first creates thriving businesses,
No
create
long-term impact.
revenue. Okay,
It's what, once a year?
it is once a year.
I still think low.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I'm putting it down. Somebody better tell me no. I'm doing it. Can't tell me no. Change code to prevent empty buildings from sitting there.
I think that would have a huge impact, guys. We have a couple buildings that are dilapidated
Yeah.
and uncared for, and that's blight, and that's part of our statute.
I don't necessarily know if it's, and I'm sorry not to try to change the sticky or to add one, but I think you also have to create incentives to, it's not just, if you just change the code. We can get, we don't need to get lost in the weeds of that yet.
Okay,
but
yep, just tell me where it is because you guys will figure this crap out
It's
later.
high impact, high effort.
It's high impact, high effort?
Yeah.
I'm going. Okay. Expand beautification budget.
Low effort, high impact. Low.
Yeah, low effort because we already have it in place,
Okay,
and high impact because people
Lower.
definitely notice that. That's my opinion.
The midline.
Midland.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that one. I mean, if we doubled the amount of money that we spend on flowers, how many people are gonna notice?
Yeah, they already see flowers. More flowers is probably
I mean,
just a low impact.
I think it's great, but I don't think it's a high impact. I
Okay.
think that kind of is with the like,
So I
And
thought,
Judy's
like,
happy with her budget. I think she would always be happy with more, but I think
Oh.
she's got a good relationship and we would want to check in with her and see what her ideas are about that. Because I know she's working on a lot more annual
But-
stuff.
so
and that-
specifically, this was around creating beautification around near the bridge next to Crosscut, from the bridge down to the hotel maybe, and putting bigger rocks in the roundabout. I remember this is an email from Tanya.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, beautification is a bigger picture than just flowers and rocks, but.
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
The high impact is, I thought it was because it makes an impact on people noticing it and seeing it, not that we needed to put more into it.
there
Low
are,
effort is not more into it.
Okay.
there are more requests for Judy's time to take care of more things, like she brought up. Even the wetlands project, people wanted her to start helping with that, but she really couldn't because it wasn't something that was on our radar. Because of course we want to work together, but it just didn't work out with the timing of her lifting everything. And so just know that that is happening. And so that's where the increase, and that's why I'd like to bring her into that more.
Okay. Nope. You have to decide though.
I still think it's low effort because it's already in our
I
rate.
think we all agree on low effort. I think there's just a debate over
Can I ask a question?
impact.
Does this have anything to do with repaving that section that goes from the bridge to the east down below?
I don't know if it had
That's
anything to do with paving, but
Is that a
um,
different one?
it could.
I think that made it.
I can agree with high impact. I think I was like thinking about the scope being a lot tighter. So if beautification, high impact,
Okay.
increasing the budget there.
All right. I'm moving on. You guys can't stop me. You can. You can, but you're not.
18 minutes and 14 stickers.
I am going to come after you.
They were
Leasing
getting better
property
then.
for parking.
I think if we're talking about if the parking's in the word, that should go with the traffic parking.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sticky.
thank you. We're going to put that behind our comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Engaging more public support for NDDA projects. Oh, there it is. See, I told you I had one right there.
That's going to be super high effort.
Impact?
This might be the new box.
Oh, did we do it?
Maybe.
I'm going.
Go.
I'm going.
They
Sorry,
can be
what
lost.
is
We
this
can
one?
change our mind later if we have to. So go ahead.
I'm taking it with me so you can't change them. So,
To Steve Crow, that was in the high effort, low impact box, the self-promotion of the NDDA.
so engaging more public support for NDDA projects.
Oh, got it. It's going in which category?
Say that again.
Which group is that going to? Which quadrant?
It's going into low impact, high effort.
Okay. I agree with that.
Okay. How about hire an administrator to assist with programming?
What
I
programming?
don't know what that means.
Oh,
Nobody owns it. We got to pitch it out. What do you think?
I don't remember.
I don't know what that is.
okay. Scratch your brains real quick for just 5 seconds.
It's for the performance space because we said we couldn't, I think that's what the conversation was, that we didn't,
Oh,
we didn't know
gets
how
stuck
that
with
would
the
work.
Create summer concert. series.
Exactly.
I think that was what that was.
Okay. Do I have permission to combine these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that we're on to create a summer concert series and having the portable stage as a part of this, where does this go? Just this one tactic, create a summer series.
That's high impact, high effort.
Going?
Yeah, put
Going?
the impact even higher than that.
He's saying no, we need to up it. Riverwalk, collect existing data and identify gaps. 6 months? Less than 4 hours per month?
It's a
No, we're going over here?
big effort.
Big effort?
Yeah.
Is it a big effort for the whole project or just that part?
Yep.
I think it's just that part isn't
Yep.
going to be that big of an effort. The information already exists. We just got to collect it.
But isn't, I guess, is part of the Riverwalk figuring out like politically which businesses will want it, which don't, and having a lot of conversations about that?
There's a lot of touch points there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think beyond that,
Good.
beyond the businesses, I've already heard, beyond the businesses, there's residents.
Yeah.
And there's concern about having additional traffic coming down there. So I think that's another one, like there's, from the effort standpoint, getting support for a project like that could potentially be, it isn't just knocking out the business support.
Mm-mm.
There is a whole other conversation that will happen.
They've been organizing.
Yes.
Yeah,
because
and
you have
that's
to-
fine. They just want to be heard as part of the conversation. They're not saying no. They have different things and they've emailed, and Barbie even talked to them at one point. And so they know that we want to talk to them because that's the way that we've been talking. But Steve is
Okay.
very right that they're very organized.
No problem. I put it up here in high impact, high effort.
You have to
I know, I put it up in the highest little corner.
rebrand the Riverwalk to riparian meditation
We're gonna,
corridor.
that's its own sticky note, my friend. That's its own sticky note. How much to buy out GoCo grant for Guercio? That's more of like a, you just want to know.
I just want to know.
Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? Watch this. That's how we do that.
189,000.
And you already know the answer? Damn, she's good. Increase 189,000. There you go. Increase public art budget. I have a feeling this is your jam.
Well, it was on there on the list to talk about public art, and I wasn't really sure what that was about, other than I want to make sure public art continues. So guys, can you give me some feedback on what you want to see from public art, as I was just told to write something down?
And you're gonna get more specific of what that is, right? After today. So, but so where does this fall?
It's a new project. I think it's just, it's an ongoing.
So the effort there, if we talk about hours of the individual, this has been taking over my business.
No kidding.
I put a lot of work into this.
No, I'm not saying.
So we're over here.
Saying public art doesn't take effort. I'm saying the decision to increase. an
All
existing
right.
budget
In a meeting.
Shouldn't require, it shouldn't be a.
No, that doesn't take much effort, no.
And so it may not be the right goal,
Okay.
right? Because it's like, with these places where expand beautification budget, expand the art budget, make the decision. What's the plan, right? That's what your guys are gonna have to do after this.
I would think it could be low effort and high impact though, because it's not going to take that much to increase the budget.
Right.
And, what happens with that budget, I think public art is a very, very obvious thing in town, kind of like beautification.
What I will say is that once you get that approved and you do increase your public art budget, okay? We have to set a very specific goal as to what that means. Does that mean get one more mural up this year? Now you know. No, sorry, next year, 2024. Sorry, I was already thinking 2024.
Or does it mean you personally need help so that you don't have to spend as much time? Yeah.
So
Okay.
do you want another board member to join your committee?
As long as they are efficient and helping.
She has
So
criteria.
I have someone that's interested that I can talk to you about. We can talk about that and I'll talk with that person and we can see if that's what you want. Because I know the public art committee is robust and they all put in a lot, but since it is this, we'll talk about that.
Evaluate impacts of code changes from housing study on the CBD.
I put that one up there. It just seemed like there's a lot of talk about, looking at Nederland's strategic plan and the housing study and then employee housing and so on. And like, again, with the code changes, I'm sure there will be both, good outcomes, but also are some of those code changes going to negatively impact property values?
Mm. We forgot something here and I need to put it up here, not only from the housing study, but we're about to go into our comprehensive plan. And the first area that we have prioritized is the CBD. You guys, we will have to call on you for that. You will have to be involved in that. There's no exception. And so that will probably have to be something that you create space for. Okay. I'll pull this one out later.
Can you read it again?
So it's evaluate impacts of code changes from the housing study in the CBD and the comp plan. So, and the comp plan, you know what, after we're done here, I might have to pull the comp plan out as its own thing because the comp plan will require the Tiger team kind of idea. And that's completely different from the housing study. So now that I'm rethinking it, I'm gonna have to pull that out as its own. Evaluate DDDA's standing with housing. Wait a second. We have two. Evaluate NDDA's standing with the housing study. We already had it. Doesn't mean anything else, right? I'm putting.
I mean, the first one you put up, I think speaks more to what are the cost benefits. The evaluate, I didn't think addressed as much of like cost benefits of the CBD specifically.
Oh, evaluate NDDA's standing with the housing study. Evaluate impacts of code changes from housing study.
Yeah, I thought they were a little different, but
Are they?
yeah, wrong.
No, well, yeah, let me know if they are different.
I thought the first one was a little more specific in that this evaluate DDA's standing, I don't know what that.
With housing study.
Housing study.
Yeah, that was a placeholder that we would be involved with the housing study.
Okay.
But isn't this one also the evaluate impacts of code changes from housing study on the CBD?
Okay.
I could agree with that.
Okay. I'll put, you know what? We'll just do our little thing here. Loans in addition to grants.
High impact, low effort.
Do we have that metric? Remember, we were gonna make a system with metrics and evaluation, develop the would that fall with that sticky?
Develop an evaluation system for funding requests. This is
Because I mean, just.
create loans in addition
There
to
might be
grants.
some things that would, like this qualify in part of the system with whether it's a scorecard or not. There might be, here's, what qualifies for a grant and a loan. I think that, there's some that would come out of that maybe.
I think they overlap.
Provide a loan without doing a pre-go evaluation.
Scott, would you get close to my text?
You couldn't possibly provide a loan without doing a pretty thorough evaluation.
So they're
So
related, but are they
you-
the same thing?
They're not the same thing, but they certainly are related.
My question is, in order to grant loans, do you guys have to go through some sort of due process? Do you have to create the structure or
We
anything?
have the statutory authority to do it immediately.
Okay, so what I'm hearing that it would take less than 6 months in order to get this enacted?
Not if it's related to the evaluation system for funding.
Well,
Right. I think
We
it
also-
depends on what the loan is. If it's a $2,000 loan for somebody to have a wine festival, that's one thing. If it's a $140,000 loan for
mhm.
infrastructure, that is not low effort.
Okay. Do we want to prioritize what types of loans? Like less than 25,000 initially? Was that ever a conversation or a thought?
You bring up a good point is what, how to break that loan threshold down, because there very well might be capital improvement loans that would be worth taking to improve, the property values and the DDA, but there might also, this threshold, what is that?
That's okay.
Or
You know
is
what?
is it more of a how much of our effort would be put into creating
The
a
process.
process?
Yeah, but it's also, I see what they're talking, it's related back to this evaluation. So we say that we're going to just give loans less than 25,000, right? And we put the process in place to do that. And that's where I see, okay, then what's the evaluation criteria? So I see where your heads are bouncing between the two.
Yeah.
Mhm. But in terms of creating the process, if it's already in our statutes, it's already something that we could get done within less than 6 months, then I would say that it's probably a lower effort.
6 months for the did we agree that the evaluation system was going to be low effort? I think that's
Yeah.
gonna be-
We did not agree on that one.
I don't think we did, yeah.
Scott did not agree? That was what you wanted to do too. You don't think it's less than 6 months to create?
I think if we're talking like a comprehensive evaluation system for funding requests, it's getting some feedback from, the public and town. I think that seems a little more than low effort.
So it's not less than 6 months?
I can't imagine would be. It's also putting us into an activity in a business that we have not been in prior.
Oh, the loans
Yeah, I mean, it's creating a whole new,
or the evaluation.
creating loans.
Oh, creating loans.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have some disagreement in terms of where this goes.
I see both of those as being high effort, me personally, high effort and, you know, high impact.
Okay. And so
I think that's going to take more than
real quick,
4 months.
Scott,
Yeah, I want to make a distinction here. So, you know, just improving our processes and the way we evaluate proposals and ideas, that doesn't have to be a big, huge undertaking.
right. Okay.
But I do think taking on, that's the business we're already supposed to be in. It's just being a little more rigorous in the way we look at projects. But creating a whole new part of what we operate, being in the business of providing loans, to me, it is related to evaluation, but it is a different undertaking.
all right. Tell me,
Or effort.
somebody,
Yeah, okay.
somebody tell me where to put it.
Maybe they're not directly linked, touching, but certainly the loans I'd say is high impact, high effort.
Okay. I'm putting it there.
But I also believe that
Moving on.
There's a difference, and I'm just going to speak directly to Scott. I think there's a difference between just acknowledging to be more rigorous in, you know, what our mission is and how to carry it out versus creating and implementing a system of metrics and a scorecard that really then can evaluate funding requests as be they loans, be they grants, be they, you know, whatever, that's a little more than, I think at least 6 months personally, but, yeah.
I mean, I think that the evaluation that was around like our event request, because last year we kind of like just flatlined everything.
Yeah.
So it could be more than that, but like just as a simple, to take something and say that we could have a simple solution, because we know that people are going to come back next year and ask for event funding. So can we like agree to solve that piece of it?
Yeah, what I'm prepared to do is to come forward with a one-page document
Yeah.
that will
Right.
give us 6 to 12 questions.
Yep.
Some of them will be objective and some of them will be subjective, but it will require us to actually ask a little bit more thorough group of questions about any type of proposal that comes forward.
Yeah. So
And
that's,
we can step through it, and I feel like it'll immediately give us a basis for having a better sense of whether or not something is worth our funding and our effort and our time.
I think you're going to have two distinctly different scorecards, one for loans and one for grants, because the criteria is going to be so different in terms of what will be asked for. And I think, again, we can always change it. Try something. If it doesn't work, do something else.
Sure.
Cool. Last one. Replace crusher sidewalks with concrete. Okay,
Thank you.
we're done. So that's how the process works. Your next step is what I do is I take this, I put it to an online format. I'll ask you to be voting for the things typically that are above this line. Okay. In terms of, are there some things that we need to prioritize over other things? For instance, do we need to prioritize a comprehensive plan for parking over creating a sanitation district? And here's why. How many times have you had 10 number one things to do? And how many times did they get all done really great? Hardly ever. This is an opportunity and an effort to focus our attention and pick the 3 to 5 things that we know we can accomplish and knock them out. It's going to be hard to prioritize one thing over the other, but that's what the next part of the phase of the exercise is to do. And we're done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much, Nicole.
Yeah, no problem. Hopefully now we have a little bit, there are some things that we said no to, okay? Or we at least said no, not now. And that's good to clarify. Okay. So now we're on to the next stage to figure out what gets surfaces to the top. Okay.
The comprehensive plan kind of thing you wanted to pull aside, not to, we need to keep meeting about it or talking, but is that coming up in our next meeting or?
Yeah, so that would be, thank you. So let me just go ahead and write that. So that would be where the NDDA is setting some time aside and brain power and people and, time resource mostly of having somebody be able to consult on the comprehensive plan, and because the CBD is going to be the first area of focus. So that's a pretty big deal. And that probably needs to be on your guys' radar, unfortunately. So I'll put that as its own sticky note.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for your effort and your time.
It's fun. And hey, Steve, thanks for hanging with us online. And I really appreciate you popping in when you wanted to say something. Really appreciate that. Oh, you're on mute, my friend.
Steve, do you want to call me or talk about what we want to walk? Are you going to be in the office tomorrow?
No, I'm gonna be out tomorrow, but I could talk to you on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, do you want to just?
Yeah, it's just a few minor things, but a couple of them are kind of glaring.
Okay. I've been not in town as much, but if it's easier, if you just want to put him in an email to Nathan too, and I'm happy to meet you there, but Nathan's kind of pulling lead on, punch out. So,
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll CC you and Ron on the committee and write Nathan.
okay.
Can you put me on that too, Steve?
Yes.
That email so
Yeah.
I can make sure that Nathan.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. I just didn't want like the whole job to be signed off on and complete, and then we're like, wow, this isn't great.
Right. Yeah, perfect.
Well, you guys did wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks,
for your
Steve.
participation.
Yeah, for sure.
Not easy to do this stuff. So thank you for coming together. What's that? Right? It could have been a lot worse. Could have been way more painful. What's that?